All right, what's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster back here on this Monday night, October 23rd, 2023. It's about 9:35 p.m. here, California time. And latest activity looks like a 1.6, a little small microquake up in Alaska. Did see some movement stirring up here throughout the course of the day. And the white color rings here off the coast of Taiwan, seeing a 5.6. This originally came in as a 5.9. A little bit of activity stretching up into China right now with a 4.3 within the last hour. So there is a little bit of movement here kicking off the coast. Well, it looks like USGS is still reporting this as a 5.9 earthquake there off the coast of Taiwan, but within the Japan region. Looks like about 29 kilometers deep or so for these little earthquakes, a little bit deeper on that 5.9. So continue to watch that. This is on the opposite side of the plate boundary where we've seen all of that earthquake swarming here in the Izu Trench region over the past couple weeks, which has not popped back up. It did have quite a bit of earthquake activity. In fact, if we look at the magnitudes up here and the multitude of quakes during the swarms, we had about 140 earthquakes of some large-sized earthquakes there. Looks like about 3 6s. And quite a few 5s and 4s, and I'm sure many other earthquakes in there as well. So really no main quake, but it was quite the interesting sequence of earthquakes out there during that swarming period. And I was definitely expecting it to pick up here across this area, but it really hasn't. Not like I thought it would. But we'll continue to watch this area, though, for some movement. Down into the, Papua New Guinea area. The latest earthquake of 5.3, 54 kilometers deep here, Papua New Guinea. And a little bit of activity earlier this morning, further to the north and also west there towards the Philippines. Now we are seeing a little bit of activity stirring up here across the New Zealand area. This earthquake coming in into the Cook Strait area of New Zealand, right off the plate boundary here, about 58 kilometers deep. Along with, it looks like we did see a 5.2 earthquake earlier this afternoon as well. So definitely seeing some adjustment taking place here across the New Zealand area. Let me go back over here and double check, see what we have far as the GeoNet servers go. Not a whole lot of new information here on their news articles. So we'll just go ahead and check out the earthquakes here. 5 hours ago, 3.6. There is that four-pointer there in the Cook Strait area of New Zealand. And 5.2 earthquake, that was yesterday night. That earthquake definitely was shaking things up out there. I was checking out this report earlier, and there's quite a few folks that reported this magnitude here. Mostly moderate, some strong shaking being reported, but you notice that it was reported even up here in the extreme areas of North Island area. So it's definitely a good shaker. Now, far as I want to see what we got here for this activity here on the drums. That 5-pointer is going to be, let's see here, South Island. It's going to be this one right here. So if you look on the map, we've seen at least, another one, it looks like. Not quite as big as that 5-pointer, but things have definitely picked up slightly here across the New Zealand area. And in the last couple hours, really haven't seen too much activity, but overall in the last couple days, we've noticed an uptick here with movement going on across the New Zealand area. Far as the volcanic activity goes, check out the Volcano drums. Here's the Kermadec Trench area. This is going to show some of the earthquake activity that we've been seeing over the last 24 hours, specifically in this area here, and some of those deeper quakes as well, which we're getting, got some pretty deep quakes there into the northern edge of the Kermadec Trench, it looks like. But aside from that, there's some of the other earthquake activity showing up. Not a whole lot at the Taupo supervolcano. That looks pretty quiet for now, as you can see here on the map. All right, switch back to a different supervolcano here at Yellowstone National Park. We'll see if this is keyed up or not. Looks like it is. And there's a little earthquake. In the last couple hours, it looks like that is showing up pretty nicely around the Mary Lake area, it looks like. It's going to be this earthquake right here. Let's see if the USGS has reported on it. No, they have not. These earthquakes on the map are from much earlier this morning. So that earthquake activity that you're seeing there on the graph is fairly new. But definitely looks like it showed up pretty nicely across most of the seismograph stations here. Probably at least close to a 2.5. Probably didn't break the threshold, though. Otherwise, we would have seen that show up on the USGS map, but they're not reporting anything. But it still looks like within the last hour or so, that earthquake coming in to the Yellowstone area. Mount St Helens, still seeing some earthquake activity. Goodness, just an ongoing deal here with Mount St Helens. Let me bring up the latest volcano hazards map, and we'll check out a few things there at that volcano, which remains at green and normal, according to the USGS here. And there's some of that earthquake activity that picked up there today. The gas emissions. These are all monitoring stations that pick up, pretty much anything that would be related to volcanic activity. Carbon dioxide looks pretty neutral for now. Not a whole lot of spiking going on. Not a whole lot of unusual activity. Sulfur dioxide is... what happened to it? Let's see here. Well, it's pretty level. Not a whole lot being reported, or at least being picked up. Here's the path month of sulfur. Oh, this was hydrogen sulfide. Hydrogen sulfide right here. Sulfur dioxide. This is that station that kind of showed a little spike right about the first week of September. We've seen that earthquake swarm kick up, and we noticed a spike of intensity on the sulfur dioxide emissions. Since then, not so much, but we're still seeing the earthquake activity kicking up. So definitely continue to watch this. And I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of earthquake activity that's been happening there at the Mount St. Helens region. I'm going to go back here real quick, and I just want to double check and show you guys. We're going to go 0.0, and we're going to kick this up. We're just going to go back here 2 months. That way we get to see the earthquake activity in its full potential out there at Mount St. Helens. Just specifically right here. And show you guys how many earthquakes this thing has kicked up. So 263 earthquakes since August 17th. Most of this activity stirred up around the first week of September. So that's a lot of earthquake activity. Goodness, 263. We didn't see any major magnitudes here. In fact, the largest one looks to be a 2.4. So not a whole lot of large earthquakes at all, but there's a lot of little bitty ones. And what that means, well, I think I don't know. I mean, it's down there. If you look at these depths here, most of it is consistent in between about 3 to 5 kilometers. So whether there's magma maybe stirring up down there or some further volcanic gases, that's a good question as to maybe what could be stirring this earthquake activity up there at Mount St. Helens, because I would say that's a little bit above normal background activity, just basing that on my observation. And I check these graphs day in, day out for many years now. So it's definitely a lot of earthquake activity. We'll continue to watch it and report back on it if anything changes, that is. So definitely keep it on our list. Northern California, handful of smaller earthquakes, including one here around the Lake Almanor area, 2.4 earlier this afternoon. And one little earthquake here outside of the Rio Vista area. This is where that, was it a 4-pointer or a 5-pointer that kicked up here? A few days ago. 4.2, that's right. 4.2. So a little bit of aftershock activity, it looks like, occurring around this area of the delta. Not a whole lot going on through the San Joaquin Valley for now. Southern California is just looking pretty quiet. Not a whole lot of activity stirring up down here. Nothing showing up on the 2.5 map. Looks like we did have one little earthquake there last night above 2.5. Most of the activity has been up north, but even so, that's a little on the quiet side. And Texas and the Oklahoma area, fairly quiet for the most part. This kind of looks like last night. There's a little 2.2 out in Virginia. Around the Stewart's Draft area, it looks like. Definitely some fault systems that run through here against the Shenandoah Mountain Range. This is one area I've really never visited. I would love to check out the Blue Ridge Mountains, the Great Smoky Mountains area. I bet it's absolutely beautiful. All right, moving on for earthquake activity. A handful of earthquakes here across Puerto Rico. Nothing major going on, just quite a few 2s and 3s out there in the typical swarm area. Now over here across the divergent boundary of the this little fracture zone, you can see the new oceanic crust out here. That's these little patterns that you're seeing unzipping. Well, I don't know if it's unzipping, but the new oceanic crust being made throughout time. There's definitely, it looks like, a handful of earthquakes stirring up out here in this divergent boundary zone. That should amplify some conditions out here across the South America region. Now here's the, it's occurring right at the, roughly about here in that middle of that plate boundary. Let me bring this back up. Here's the Nazca plate right here in the center. Right here with the Antarctica plate, divergent boundary activity that should strain further regions up north here across the Peru-Chile Trench and potentially up here along the Middle America Trench. Here in the coming hours and days, we should see that amplify just due to the general plate stress that the momentum takes when we see that divergent boundary activity. Let's see, the Big Island of Hawaii. This is another volcano that's just been kind of stirring up and really not doing much. Let's go ahead and check out the latest information here on the Kilauea volcano, which sits at a color code yellow and the alert level as advisory. And that is due to the earthquake activity and the continued rise in the inflation around the summit area. Let's see if I can get this to key up here, hopefully. UWE. Let's see here. Am I clicking the right one? There we go. Ooh, look at this, a nosedive. Got a nosedive here in the inflation. So that's a lot of deflation going on here just within the last 6 hours or so there at the Kilauea summit. Now, looking at, and that's just the past 2 days, but this activity is stirred up here in the last 6 hours. Here's that nosedive right here. Now, it looks pretty impressive on the other map, but we got to remember the size here. This is in the last 30 days. The other map is the last 2 days. So this shows the general trend here. We get these little dips in the inflation, and then we go back to inflation status, a little dip, inflation, and it looks like we may be taking a little dip, and then more than likely we'll continue to see that go up. Eventually, though, we're going to see this make its way to the surface as far as the magma, the suspect, and what's creating the inflation below. How long it will be is a good question, but we'll continue to watch and report back on it. Here is the past. This map looks a little off. Let's see if I can find something a little bit better. That one's non-existent. Maybe down here. There we go. Still seeing some earthquake activity. See that? That's actually a lot of little ones. Yeah, and that's today's data. Kind of odd because the USGS is really not showing a whole lot of movement over here in that area. Only about 9 earthquakes? Huh. That's a little odd because I see a lot more than 9 on here. Either way, we got some deflation going on currently. We'll continue to watch and report back on that, though. Let's see if anything else has changed out here across the areas. Was this here? I'm trying to think if this had just popped up or not. Probably speaking stuff into existence as far as the divergent boundary expected activity up here. But 4.1 Chile area, 99.9, almost 100 kilometers deep there into the Peru-Chile Trench. Uh, 3.0 out here in the Mediterranean, a little bit of movement across Turkey and some movement up north. It looks like is that around the, let's see exactly where that's at. Up north, I believe it looks like it's one of these earthquakes here in the Poland area. 3.1. You get a little bit of earthquake activity out there on occasion. The Atlantic Ocean, aside from some movement out there around the Azores, it's still pretty quiet. If you look at the globe, not a whole lot of activity stirring up out here. As far as movement goes, space weather activity, goodness, I do not know what's going on here, but look, 20% chance of a sea flare. This is very rare to see. I mean, I don't recall the last time we've seen this low of sunspot numbers and sunspot energy. This almost looks like we're heading back to solar minimum. Are we done with solar maximum? Technically, we shouldn't be. Solar maximum is going to peak up here around 2025. We'll wait for this to get updated. I'm not for sure when they're going to update this, but we're probably going to drop tremendously from the actual sunspot number, which is in this graph going up and down. This is the predicted or the forecasted sunspot number. We were still way ahead, but I think we're going to drop down into that category, if not below this line, unless something changes. And same for the SFI, which is the energy out there, the solar flux progression. That should drop as well. Goodness. So there's just not a whole lot going on here with the sun right now. That one sunspot that was coming around the eastern limb, we do have a pretty good view of it, but it is absolutely quiet. Goodness. It's quite surprising. So continue to watch this and report back, see if anything changes on here, but no major roars expected. No major unusual activity noted aside from the extreme quietness. We do have a couple coronal holes here, 66 and 65, that are looking, you can see them pretty nicely over here. Looks like those will be centered disk here and Earth facing in a couple days. Should these continue to amplify, that will increase the high-speed solar wind stream at Earth and amplify these forecast conditions here once they are in position. So we're maybe looking at in the next week or so, should see these kick up unless these decide to go away. But for now, look at that UV filter. Not a whole lot going on. Crazy, at least as far as sunspot activity goes. All right, weather outlook. Here's the current day one. Looks like a little slight risk category going on up there for, is it tornado, wind, hail? Looks like maybe some hail threat up there across Mason City, Iowa, and Minnesota region. Getting in on a little bit of activity. Out here in California, I'm waiting on the arrival of this low pressure system that's coming down straight out of the north from Canada, bringing with it quite a bit of rain and mountain snow into the Pacific Northwest. By the time it gets down here into Northern California, it's lost its moisture, but it's bringing with it a lot of cold air. Goodness. Let me show you guys the temp anomaly here. Let's go back here. I think today was our last hot day of the year. I'm hoping we hit about 81. But this is that's for Monday night. This is going to be rolling into Tuesday. Notice this cold pattern here, just dropping straight down out of the north. And those cooler temperatures are going to be in these colors here. Those are a huge departure from normal. We're talking about some single-digit temperatures up there into Montana and Wyoming. And you can see that cold system, that cold pool of air stretches down into Southern California as well. So below normal temperatures for the majority of the West Coast. Pretty much beginning tomorrow and then lasting through the week. Into the weekend as well. It looks like it wants to hang around before high pressure builds back in slightly towards the beginning of next week. But we're getting very active in the patterns out here. Very active. I think we're going to have a dandy of a winter with the strong El Nino event forecasted. Let's go back here to the assemble GPS. I want to check out the height anomalies here. And this is a couple days old. Here's the let me bring this back up. Here's that cold air coming down. You'll see it a little bit better on the pattern here. Makes its way all the way down in Northern California with some very cold temperatures. And as we put that into motion there, that's going to hang out, as I mentioned, through the weekend. And then next week, we will have to see what happens. This could change. But it looks like for now, the cold pressure, or the low pressure with this cold air, is going to be a dominant feature. At least for this week and this coming weekend. Some high pressure out there across the eastern portion of the country, but that's not going to last long because looks like towards next week that's going to get squashed with some cooler air. Either way, it's an interesting pattern, and I'm looking forward to it because I am done with hot temperatures. I say bring on the cold. I'm not even joking. All right, I'm out of here, folks. I think that's about it. I don't think we got anything abnormal going on as far as the volcanoes go. At least the USGS monitored ones. A couple up in Alaska that have been active throughout the past couple months. But Cascades, Sierra Nevada, Southern California, all pretty quiet. Just kind of watching, seeing how things play out, folks. Have a good night. Stay safe out there, and just be prepared. We're living in some crazy, crazy times right now. Have a good night.